why would you be the leader who is walking towards inevitable defeat? And you'll never have the opportunity to say, oh, but Rishi would have done it worse, because you don't have controlled experiments in politics. So to a certain extent, you know, if you want to lead the party, you should let Rishi Sunak be I suppose, the sort of the political bad bank, and take away all of the toxicity of an election defeat, and then come in afterwards saying, I would have done it better.
Is this the sound of the next Conservative leader?
Boris and I have worked intensively with every institution with a responsibility to protect our borders, to turn back the boats.
It is a voice we have not heard in some time, really. Priti Patel has kept quite a low public profile since stepping down as Home Secretary, but by all accounts, she is the darling of the popcons. Yes, that is the party's popular conservatism group. The Times reports today they've launched a plan to get their nominee for new leader installed if Rishi Sunak departs after the election. In case you're having palpitations, it's not before the election, it's after the election. They want a Liz Truss-style candidate, and Priti Patel is their first choice. Let's speak to Isabel Hardman, assistant editor of The Spectator. Morning, Isabel.
Good morning.
Do you believe this? Do you buy this?
I mean, I believe it. Whether anyone would buy it as being the credible way in which to save the Conservative Party is a completely different question. But I mean, Priti Patel, to a certain extent, I think it's probably a bit of an insult to Priti Patel to say that she's a Liz Truss-style candidate. I'm not sure whether anyone would really want to be written up like that. But she is more popular within the Conservative Party than I think probably outside of the party might suggest. She's very likeable. She has, as you say, kept a reasonably low profile, although she's been very active in the Commons, particularly on opposing legislation and immigration policy that she says isn't going to work. So she's sort of kept the right profile, if that makes sense, to keep Conservative MPs on side, not sort of sounding off over in the States on a book tour or anything like that.
What is the crossover, though, between Liz Truss and Priti Patel? What are the similarities, if any?
I mean, they are from a similar branch. They obviously, they both worked on the After the Coalition book back in 2011. They are, I'd say, reasonably sort of liberal, libertarian conservatives. This popular conservatives group is headed up by Mark Littlewood, formerly of the Lib Dems back in a previous life, but very much a sort of libertarian conservative who does rate Priti Patel very highly. But I mean, this is just one of a number of plots of strands of thinking of how to save the Conservative Party. And you pointed out in your intro that this would be after the election. Well, there's people who are still thinking about doing something before the election. So it may be that Priti's moment doesn't even come.
Oh, God. Well, who might spoil the party for Priti?
I mean, this is one of the other things, is that the plotters who would like to move before the election, they haven't agreed on a candidate. Some of them say that this is their strength. Kemi Badenoch has made it clear to them, apparently, that she is not their woman. There was obviously the flurry of excitement around Penny Mordaunt, which was dampened down by Penny Mordaunt herself, largely her pointing out that she'd actually done more constituency dinners than had been reported. But she doesn't particularly want to do anything before the election, because the problem is that why would you be the leader who is walking towards inevitable defeat? And you'll never have the opportunity to say, oh, but Rishi would have done it worse, because you don't have controlled experiments in politics. So to a certain extent, if you want to lead the party, you should let Rishi Sunak be the sort of the political bad bank, and take away all of the toxicity of an election defeat, and then come in afterwards saying, I would have done it better.
What about Grant Shapps? Some reports that he was holding drinks called schnapps with Shapps. I don't know if he came up with that or someone else did, but I know he denied it. But is there any smoke there at all?
Oh, it's very reminiscent of the fizz with Liz that Truss used to do when she was trying to become leader back in the day. It's quite funny actually, because Labour MPs went through a very long phase of accidentally calling Grant Shapps Grant Shapps before they realised what his actual name was.
Dear.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was doing a little bit of leadership campaigning. He is also somebody who is very well liked within the party because he's very collegiate. But I think he'd be quite a difficult person to put into the leadership, not least because he's got so many names. And I think his sort of dodgy business past would make it very difficult for him to stand the light of scrutiny. That's certainly what even some of his pals who really like him say he would struggle with.
Just finally, Isabel, we've had all the discussion about who could unseat or replace Rishi Sunak before the election. Now we're having some slight discussion about who might be the leader after the election. If there's another version of this, is that one version too many? I mean, to many people, it already feels like there's too many candidates. There's too much chatter about the fact that, we're not happy with our leader, but actually there aren't really any proper candidates. Do you think this needs to be the last kind of plot?
Gosh, I mean, I think most of the very serious candidates who would do a good job of leading are totally understandably keeping very quiet because they just want to get through the election. They know it's going to be terrible. They don't think that plotting openly against the Prime Minister is going to make things any better. Although, interestingly, the plotters actually genuinely think that it could make things better. And you do have, to be fair to the party, there are lots of serious, credible, interesting and exciting people who are quieter and less hyped who will start to emerge after the election, and they should, very much go into hiding, but until that point.
Okay, Isabel, thank you. It's Isabel Hardman, assistant editor of The Spectator.
It's kind of